Hello and welcome to the Miss Rolling podcast. As always, my name is Jacob Staten, but unusually this week, following a trip to the hairdressers, we are joined by the love child of Susan Boyle and Jimmy Carr. It's Joshua Armstrong. Hello!
Jimmy Carr. Where's Jimmy Carr come from? That's a bit of a random one.
To the side, isn't it? It's to the side. It's curly. That's what we're going with. People loved it, mate.
I'd have gone for Subo and Hitler.
You can't bring a Hitler in, mate. Come on.
We've got Wayne Hennessy as a key. Anyway, that's we've gone Hitler early doors. Let's just carry on. How are you today, Jacob?
JJ, how are you?
Oh, I'll ask you first, but I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all, mate. Thank you. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. I suppose before diving straight into the first game of the Premier League season, because that's what we're in, we begin as always with what are you drinking, JJ?
I am drinking water. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm saving my liver to get damaged this Saturday as I celebrate the return, after 23 years, the return to the Premier League for Nottingham Forest, and I can't wait. I want to give my liver the best chance it has to get absolutely dupped when we thrash Newcastle. So tonight, Matthew, I'm on the water. What about you?
Well, I'm on a soft drink as well. It's not because I didn't want to be here. It's because this weekend has been a weekend of absolute chaos in my house, and no beers were purchased at shopping. So I have a Coca-Cola Original left over from a takeaway last night.
There you go, nice and red.
Ooh,
get it down, you boy. That looks like such an advertisement for anyone watching this podcast. Is sponsored by Coca-Cola.
You can drink Pepsi as well, and Roller Cola is fine.
Sure,
there we go.
Sure.
So, Joshua, it's Saturday, 3:00, the northeast of the country, St James's Park. We will be playing Newcastle United in the Premier League.
We will.
Talk to me. Team predictions. What do you think will happen? How do you think it'll unfold? Give me your thoughts. Give me your feelings. Give me your theories.
Well, we're finally here. I thought after Wembley, it felt like the start of the season would take forever to arrive, and all of a sudden, after a very exciting summer window, we're here. It's this week. It's about to happen. I'm extremely excited. Not really nervous at all. I think the nerves are reduced by just pure excitement at this point. I think it's a really good time to play Newcastle. I think they've got a hell of a lot of money behind them. But I think they're still in the market. They've not done too much business. They've got a few new faces in. They'll equally be looking to gel, but I think the Newcastle that starts this season won't be the same Newcastle that ends this season. I think Stevie Cooper is a million times better than Eddie Howe. I'm going to say it. Tactical genius that Steve Cooper is. So I'm feeling very, very confident. I'm not going into this game concerned that we're not going to get anything from it. I think we are in the market for a point here. However, I believe, if it gels, if it works early doors, I do think we can pick up possibly 3 points for our first game. So really excited and just can't wait. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, I was speaking to somebody at work today who's a Newcastle fan, and he kind of pointed out, both teams ended the season on a high. Newcastle survived a lot easier than a lot of people thought they would. They've both recruited well during the summer. It's going to be an interesting game. I've seen a lot over Twitter and all social media, people claiming it's going to, they'll take a draw, they're predicting a draw type thing. I don't see a draw. I think both teams are kind of going to go for it. So I think there'll be some goals. I wouldn't be surprised with a 3-1, 3-2. Either way. Obviously, I'm gonna stake my claim right now and say 3-2 Forest.
3-2.
But I think it'll be a really interesting game. I think it'll be one of them games that the broadcasters regret not putting on. I think there's gonna be a lot of intent. A lot of kind of want to put in a stake down for the start of the season. Looking at possible teams, I think with the injuries and new signings and that kind of thing coming in, there's only really one first 11, because I know we were originally going to do kind of a my 11 versus your 11, and then you showed me yours and it was exactly the same as mine. That being Dean Henderson in goal, a back three of Worrell, Nyakate, and McKenna. Nico Williams and Harry Toffolo on the fullbacks. Lewis O'Brien, Oro Mangala behind Jesse Lingard with Brennan Johnson and Taiwo Iwaniyi up front.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if anybody got something too different from that.
Yeah, I think every Forest fan will have pretty much the same lineup. I think there'll only be one or two in it.
Maybe Colback for Mangala. Mangala's only just signed, hasn't he? So.
I think Colback for Mangala is probably sensible. It depends how well Mangala does in training, how match fit he is, how well he's sort of integrated into the ideology of Steve Cooper. But I mean, I wouldn't be mad if it's Colback. I wouldn't be mad. I'd prefer Yates. From what I've seen of Mangala, I'd prefer him. Yates obviously has had a bit of a knock, so I assume he's not going to be playing. That's certainly the way it looks, but I think certainly any one of them I'll be happy with starting alongside O'Brien. I think O'Brien's the main one. I think Mangala and O'Brien look the type of players to help us carry that ball forward, which I think we're desperately going to need this season. So I think whoever starts, I'll be cheering them on the same, but I certainly can see a familiar starting 11 to that. Possibly Cook for Nyakate. He started the pre-season against Valencia. I think Nyakate looks unreal from what I've seen of him in the pre-season, so I would prefer Big Musa myself, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right in thinking Nyakate wasn't even on the bench, was he, for the Valencia game? So it could have been that. It could be that he was completely not involved to kind of say any niggling injury, ready for this game. However, if there is any niggle, just don't bother. It's a big, long season. Don't worry about this game type thing. Yeah. Steve Cook, I think Nyakate is I think you put it on our Twitter, he's a Rolls Royce of a centre-back, and I absolutely agree with that sentiment. But Steve Cook can feel very hard done by that. He's not anyone's starting 11 type thing. He was
just want to point out that does not mean Steve Cook is a bad player. If Steve Cook starts every game and Nyakate is more of a backup, completely fine with me. Look what Steve Cook did last season. He felt like a cult hero. After joining in January, he fit in seamlessly, really. So certainly not saying that Cook isn't a Premier League level player. I just think from what I've seen in Nyakate, I think his sort of directness, his approach to defending and his pace will really do as well. And he looks to get out and drive us up the field. So I think that's going to be quite important. Cook or Nyakate, I'll take either. Same, like it's one of those where we've got a squad now where I believe that Steve Cooper will make the right decision. Don't think I'll ever get used to a Forest starting 11 being put on Twitter and agreeing with it every week like I've done for the past year, because all the years before it, there was always something to pick out as a flaw. But I'm just confident that Mr. Cooper will know what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's not really much to touch on signings-wise. Obviously, we have signed Mangala from Stuttgart. I'm still a bit worried around the number 10 position. Mainly, that's kind of the only place I'm still got some worries. I think Lingard is obviously the first choice, and that's for good reason. There's just, unless you rotate players into positions that they've not been playing in, i.e. Johnson's going to have to sit in the 10 if Lingard's injured, and play somebody else as that kind of roaming free range striker. Yeah. In which case, then we need a backup striker for Johnson if we're going to do that type thing.
I'd really just to nip in on that. I really don't like Johnson in the 10. From the little I saw of him in the pre-seasons, it just doesn't suit him at all. He doesn't play to his strengths. I like him sort of getting in behind and running. But as a 10, he just wasn't really effective. And I think Taiwo / Surridge combined with Jotto up top, I think is a great way for us to get some goals. And I don't see us having that same effect with Johnson taken out of the equation and being put in as a 10. So still holding out hope for Gibbs White. One day in this podcast, hopefully we can put in the title Gibbs White confirmed. It's not dying, it's still rumbling on, so you never know.
I think Gibbs White will be staying at Wolves until at least January due to that injury to Jimenez, but I would love to know I'd love some ITK on how close that ever was, because I'm hearing reports now that only Everton bid for him, and it was 20 million, and it got rejected, so they moved on type thing. It was just we're really interested to know what actually happened there, if anything happened there, or if it was just a kind of player representatives talking with Forest. But
it's not over. Morgan Gibbs-White will be a Forest player by the end of this window, and that's a guarantee. Terms and conditions apply. That might be a complete lie. If so, please invoice Jacob directly for any damages. Thank you.
So I staked my house, my claim, my life, my bounty on 3-2 Nottingham Forest. Joshua, what are you saying?
I would be amazed if we saw many 3-2 games in the Premiership. I don't think it's going to be as sort of high scoring or free scoring as we tended to be in the Championship last season. I think it's going to be quite tight. I think it's going to rely on the odd counter-attack goal and just some great defending. I think there's going to be 1 or 2 goals in it largely throughout the season. That's before Forest have kicked a ball. I really hope we're exciting. Don't want to go down the route of every game being 3-2 or even higher like Leeds seem to have done under Bielsa, because that is stressful. I'm going to go with a really tight 1-0 Forest. I don't think there'll be too many goals in it. Would love to see more, obviously, but I do think Forest will come away with the 3 points. Well,
we've both gone for a 1-goal win. Mine's by 1 goal. Yours is actually 1-goal win. So interested to see. But I suppose that shifts us nicely into the people's comments, which Jamie is going to flash on screen and talk to us about.
Let's see if this works. There we go. It did work. We're testing out video software here, so behind the scenes for you. For those watching, you can see it on screen, but for those listening, we had someone called JJ write in. Great name. It isn't me. It is a different JJ. But they wrote, I would like us to play as many of the old guard as possible to try and have some fluidity and understanding. Would go with the Valencia team and just change Niakate for Cook. Pretty spot on. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, that included Colback, which, as we said, does make sense.
Plus, against his old team as well, isn't it? So he's got a vested interest there, hasn't he? So
yes,
that's probably a good shout. And give Mangala a bit of time to bed him.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Well done, JJ. Great name. Marcus Kane, really excited for the Taiwo Brennan link up. I was at the Valencia friendly and there were flashes of really exciting stuff from those two. Also, Niakate looks ridiculously solid at the back. Honestly think we could come away with a win. Perfectly put. Niakate, I think, has got to be in with a shout of most. I know we've signed Jesse Lingard, but I think he might be the most exciting transfer we've made, more because he's relatively unknown to many. Obviously, people know Jesse Lingard, but I think Niakate has taken people a bit by shock of how good he's looked early doors. So given time, I think he's going to be a real asset for us. But I think, for me, he's certainly the most exciting transfer.
I think the Mistral awards at the end of the season for Player of the Season, or signing of the season, is going to be extremely interesting.
There's plenty to pick from this time around.
There's plenty to pick from. But I just, you can immediately point out and say, you could say, Iwanee might bang a load of goals in. Lingard might play like prime Kaka. Mangala and O'Brien. Nico Williams from right back already looks good. Niakate is a Rolls Royce for centre back. Mm-hmm. Dean Henson could be the England goalkeeper at the World Cup. So it's just the options there. There's there's always a surprise package.
Gibbs White will be in as well. Gibbs White will be in as well by the end of the window.
Oh yeah. So ignoring the Gibbs White comment, it could be any of those. But Niakate could probably be that. A kind of late runner making the surge to be Player of the Season, because I imagine over 38 games from what we've seen so far, he's going to be pretty good.
It's worth talking about the Valencia friendly as well, because we started with Surridge, so I think that's also an interesting one. Will Surridge start against Newcastle because he started the Valencia friendly? I thought Taiwo, when he came on, he's taken a bit of a kicking in the other pre-season games. Some people went as far to say he's rubbish, bleeped. Where he's not going to score any goals, all that stuff. In a preseason game, don't quite work. But when he came on, he did look really good. And I think that's mainly because we had Johnson making the change. You right there, Jacob?
Mrs. Staten's just appeared outside looking at her plants and flowers.
Perfect.
So sorry.
Forget my point. Yeah, Johnson was in his right position, and we had a Jesse Lingard behind him. So that link up, I think, is going to be key. They seem to do some really good stuff, so it is a very good point. And we also need to talk about what you called the carbon copy of the goal against Sheffield United in the playoff semi-final. Unbelievable ball from Mr. McKenna down to the channels. Great link-up play from Taiwo to Brennan, and I think that's sort of our signature move. It's like our finisher, isn't it? We'll see plenty like that, I think. We'll catch a few teams out this season with that before they sort of cotton on to that's how we play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that ball from Britain's most handsome man down the channel for Iwaniwi, a great square across the box, and probably a better finisher than the Sheffield United one in the playoffs. I mean, they're both really good, but just the way he's kind of side-footed it across the ball to put it into the corner, just lovely. And that kind of goal really speaks to your point around wanting Brennan Johnson up front, because his finishing can be absolutely lethal like that, which is why we need him up there in the box.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't playing. You said Britain's most handsome man fed the ball in, but I wasn't actually playing, so don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, okay.
Next comment from Booter Fit Chain Tone. Don't think that's a real name.
What a fit chain one.
Oh, there you go. That makes more sense. Whoops. He says, thanks for your comment, Booter. He says, 1-1 for me, Clive. Newcastle's home form under Eddie Howe last year was incredible, say how they started the season. However, we have an excellent defence and enough individual talent in attack to cause some problems. I can see the first 15 to 20 minutes being rough, but then we settle into the game and get one on the break. Great comment, Booter. Thank you very much.
It made Dunderman all over again.
Yeah. I had a nightmare.
Yeah, no. That comment has come all the way from upstate New York City, from dear friend of the podcast, Casey Fitch.
That makes more sense.
There you go. Somebody who JJ has played games with before, so there you go.
I have.
But yeah, so I absolutely agree. We've got a lot of firepower. We're pretty strong up front. I think the comment around it being chaos the first 15-20, absolutely. There's a lot of players in this team that have no Premier League experience, and to quote Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore. And this is an established, well-run football club now, which is amazing to say after Christmas. Yeah,
finally,
where they were before Christmas. So, yeah, absolutely. I think it could be a rough start, but I think we might ride the lightning.
Nice.
And see where we end up.
Just like the Sabri times. I think Lingard's going to be wanting to prove a point straight away. I think it loads them. They're just going to want to state their claim. So excited to see. I think that first 15-20 minutes is going to be interesting. I'm very interested to see. But it's the first 15 to 20 minutes of a Premier League campaign that Nottingham Forest are involved in. So let's just sit back and enjoy it. Hopefully we don't get smacked up a few goals early doors by getting too excited. But I guess we'll see.
Absolutely.
But he says 1-1. Booter.
Thanks, Booter.
NFFC Jake.
You sound like a Mexican with a cold.
I don't know what you're saying. NFFC Jake brought a poster. Cheers to that, lad. Says, cheers, lad. Go out there and give it our best. A draw would be a great result and the win would be a bonus. Personally start Surridge and have Taiwo come off the bench, which worked well against Valencia. This is a game which we really need to utilise Lingard's ability to pass through the gaps and create space for Johnson and Surridge/Taiwo. Very good point.
I think it's an Eddie Howe team. They're gonna want possession. Steve Cooper knows that. He's going to give them possession and play on the counter as we do against teams that like the ball. But yeah, so I think that comment around Lingard feeding through those channels into Iwaniwi to kind of hold up and move on to Johnson or kind of over the top or through the back kind of thing. I think it's a really good comment because we're going to have to make anything that comes our way count for sure.
Who's their centre backs? Do you know? I know they've got. Is it Byrne? Are they particularly
Dan
fast?
Byrne, yeah.
Who's the other one?
No, he's quite. Yeah.
Is that Botman? He's just coming. Is he a centre back?
Oh, Sten Botman. Yeah, he's just coming. I don't know much about him, but he's come from Lille, hasn't he? In League.
Oh, he's a centre back. Yeah. So he's He's not got Premier League experience. Could be one that we could target. I think they're relatively good at the back. They've got Target and Trippier, so they can also do us down the flank. So I think it's actually going to be a relatively interesting game. Wouldn't
be surprised if Brennan Johnson lines up against Dan Burn going in behind, and Iwan lines up against the new lad to rough him up a bit.
What if you had to pick right now, Surridge or Iwan to start? Who would you go for?
That's a very good question.
Because I think either way, is probably the right answer. Because you've got
I don't think it's a wrong answer.
You could have Iwan punish them early doors, Surridge come on whilst they're tired, and his finishing unbelievable. You've got Surridge to start, vice versa. You've got Iwan coming afterwards. So I think we're in a really good spot there. One more wouldn't help, but we have got very good options, either of them. But if you had to choose, which one would you start?
Thinking with my tactical hat on, I'd probably go Iwan to kind of beat him up for 60, 65 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Surridge to come on, because I know Surridge likes the ball to feet, doesn't he? Rather, he's not a hold-up, not a target man per se. So he can come on, get in behind with Johnson, and I feel like that would be the way I would go.
Yeah, a bit so essentially more when we had Davis beating them up for however long and Surridge coming on, and it's essentially a similar thing to that. But like I say, either way, it works.
Yeah, either way, there's no wrong answers or anything there. You could have Surridge on and try and play around him and hopefully nick a goal or whatever, and then bring Iwan up as a pure target and try and get things to stick to waste some time. So either way is a I think it's a wrong tactical decision, but I'm very interested to see what Cooper does.
Yeah. Next comment from Kirsty. Very nice name. Easy name to pronounce. Thank you for that. It says, which is interesting off that last point, really need Davis back. Very confident in Cooper, so I think we can win. Not too sure about Ty. Think he needs time. Personally would start Surridge. We almost should have done that before we discussed it. But interesting
flip side
point.
Of the coin.
Yeah. And interesting. I think I would take Keenan Davis back in a heartbeat. Not sure if we need him anymore, but I love him. I think he was one of the best players I've seen in a Forest shirt last season. I think carrying the ball up the pitch in the Premier League is going to be key for us. So I think he's fantastic at that. Yeah. But for the price that Villa are quoting, I think they've priced him out of a move. It's ridiculous. Drop it down by a few mil, get him in at the City Ground where he's loved. Well, I'll see you there any day. So,
to me, he's not the striker we need. We need a 10, not a 9. I think Surridge and Iwan, although they're not, one's a kind of more of a target, one's more of a kind of ball to feet kind of player. But they're the 9 for me. Johnson being the 10, we need another 10 as a backup to that, or somebody in the hole to cover Lingard, so Johnson doesn't have to do it type thing. That would be my personal take. I don't think we need Davis. I wouldn't say no, any stretch of the imagination. Definitely but if we're paying 15 million for another number 9, it doesn't seem not necessarily a waste, but it seems unnecessary.
Yeah. So with all that said, previewing the Newcastle game, Jacob, where is pre-season a ball's not been kicked in the Premier League for Forest yet? Where do you think Forest will finish this season?
This is a very easy answer because I've answered this question a lot this week. 10th.
10th.
I think we'll have a very, 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 very similar campaign to when Sheffield United came up. We play a little bit differently. We're very tactically astute. We'll probably catch a few teams off guard. Teams that would probably be predicted to finish just around above us normally. I just think we'll catch. I think our season, if this is going to make sense, our defining season will be the one after this one. I think to try and swerve second season syndrome. Anyway, I hope and pray that's the case. But yeah, my prediction is 10th.
Wow, that is incredibly optimistic. I've put money on Forest to get top 10. I've also put money on Forest to get top 6. Don't for a second believe that they're going to come in, but we've seen it happen. Leeds did it their first season. Sheffield United did it their first season. Brentford didn't quite get 10th, but did very, really well their first season. There seems to always be one. And then the second season, they completely collapse and capitulate. So I think that might happen to Brentford this season. Still think Leeds, I don't back them to do well. I think I'd love to see it happen. I think if we catch a few... I think I saw a point earlier, which was interesting, which... Let me try and get the Premier League table up. I'm going to stall for time here. But you don't actually have to win that many games to get in the top 10. So Wolves last season finished 10th. They won 15 games and lost 17. So they lost more than they won and they got 10th. So if we are...
How many points?
That was 51 points. So they also got 6 draws. So if we are starting to lose a few games... Please God, don't get on Cooper's back, because it shows it's one of those leagues. Like Leeds United stayed up with only 9 wins last season. It's not many. So I deviated from the point completely here. But I think we have got a chance of getting 10. I just think it is very, very optimistic. I hope the bets come in as well, because then I win a bit of money and we finish in top 10. For me, I'm going with 14th. Around the 13th or 14th mark. I don't think we're there to settle for 17th. We're not wanting to be involved in a relegation dogfight. We might get dragged into it purely because of the quality of the league. But I think we've got enough about us to pick up the points against the rival. And I trust Cooper and I love the business we've done, that I think we're not going to be 17th or below. I think 14th, 13th, looking upwards is probably where we're going to land. So that's where I think we'll be. Certainly hope we get 10th.
I think you're a good point. Maybe our points are kind of very similar in that maybe yours is kind of the glass half empty version of mine, being that we could maybe be kind of safe-ish towards Christmas and then lose a bit of fire and finish 14th with players coming back from the World Cup and things. Or maybe it could be mine where we probably never... not quite look safe, but kind of you're always kind of glancing over your shoulder, and then gets to May and we're in 10th. Kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting that we're in a position to dream of, like, we can back up. I think being hopeful of not being 18th, 19th, 20th. You listen to comments made by Scott Parker this week where he doesn't feel like Bournemouth have added enough quality. It sounds like he's down before a ball's been kicked. That would really worry me as a Bournemouth fan. I'd hate to be a Bournemouth fan anyway, to be fair. But listening to those comments, I wouldn't like to hear that. The Fulham situation sounds very similar. They're wanting people in and they've still not got people in. So they've not quite had a successful window like we have. Obviously, these players are untested. You don't know how that could go. But Fulham and Bournemouth, to me, sound like they're resigned to going down already. So I think they could fill potentially 2 of those spots. I think there's a few worse teams in us as it stands to make up the numbers. So I'm hopeful we're not going to go down. I think next season after this, if we do stay up, will be important, like you've said. But I certainly think we've got a very, very good chance of staying up this season.
Yeah. I think you're right about Bournemouth and Fulham. I think I would kind of pencil those in for relegation, because of the lack of signings, because of the lack of... I think Marco Silva's come out and said something similar around not having that much faith in his recruitment team, type thing.
Yeah.
And I think there'll be not necessarily a surprise, but a team like a Brentford, a Wolves. Like Wolves have got no striker. They've just set that... what's his name? Fabio Silva. Just go to Anderlecht. I mean, they do have that Korean player... Kwan, yeah. Up front, so close, but it'll kind of unproven. So it's going to be an interesting. They always are, but it's going to be very interesting. But JJ, I've got penciled in here that the next thing is the outro. So I've just realised there's one thing that we haven't mentioned in the slightest.
Go on,
and that's the new. Jiminy Cricket. Oh, you can edit that bit out. JJ, there's one thing we haven't mentioned, and that's the new stand.
Oh, yeah. That's
all approved.
There we go.
Everybody, I really enjoyed everyone on Twitter becoming experts in planning development. That was really fun.
Yeah, I sat and watched a council meeting for a few hours, and it was the
for a council dullest, you don't live anywhere near.
It's the most dullest thing I've ever watched. Japanese knotweed, I don't even know that existed, so
Come on, man. No, yes, you did.
No, I don't. I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay.
Well, anyway, it was very boring, but the outcome was exciting. Got a little bit into it actually, but it just feels like everything's lining up perfectly at the minute. We seem to exist in this utopia of being a Forest fan at the minute, which is certainly going to take a lot of getting used to. So let's hope that we can stay up and give that new standard Premier League welcome.
So here's a question to pose to all of you, our wonderful, wonderful listeners. So I was of the understanding that our ground was going to be increased to 38,000. Now, following that approval, it appears to only be going up to 35,000. If Forest stay up, and according to me and JJ, it's a when, not an if.
Yeah.
Is 35,000 enough, or have we missed a trick?
Nicholas Randall stated there's a BBC Sounds documentary, like a podcast released today, and they interviewed Nicholas Randall on it. He seemed to suggest that there won't be enough seats. He seemed to suggest that they need more on this. He talked about ticket sales and tickets. There's never a right answer for tickets. We've got this new ground, which is exciting, but now they're starting to think possibly not enough seats. At least that's the impression I got from what he was saying. I think 38 would have been good, certainly good. But 35, I know it's only a few thousand less, but it just feels like it's not quite there. Maybe
35 to me feels like what we could have had in the Championship.
Yeah, certainly last season. I think we sell out 35 in the Prem every week. So interested to see what happens there. I don't know if there's room for extending any other stands or whether that's another 3-year process.
There's straight off the bat we can join all the corners up, can't we? So the Trent End corners and the Bridgeford to Peter Taylor. Although that probably will be joined when it's so. There's joining those. I don't know what the kind of status is with the light now, but obviously there's the weird dip in the Bridgeford end. So do we buy more houses behind it and do whatever we want? We build up on that. It's interesting. What I personally would never like to see us move away from the City ground, but I also don't like to see us wasting millions and millions and millions of pounds in something that might not be adequate in 12 months' time. So. Yeah, so if you can let us know your opinion on whether the 5,000, increasing to 35,000 is potentially a chance missed, as it appeared that Nicholas Randall QC agrees with us, let us know.
Listen to the podcast yourself, make your own mind up. I might be getting the wrong impression from that, but that's certainly...
Don't be plugging other podcasts, Joshua, come on.
It's British Broadcast Corporation, lad, it's free. That might not even be what the BBC stands for, I don't know.
Yeah, of course it is, mate. Come on.
Full of knowledge, this lad. Right, let's wrap it up.
So on Saturday, following the match, at some point, we will let you know when. If anybody wants to watch or listen, we will hopefully be doing a live YouTube chat around the end of the game. Obviously, we'd love to have as many people on possible, giving us questions, talking to us. That'd be brilliant. We're at loggerheads around what time to do it, but we will let you know.
Let us know in the comments or tweet us. Would you rather it be straight after the game? Would you rather it be around mid-evening, 8 o'clock?
Or the wonderful idea of 10:15 leading up to our first appearance on Match of the Day for nearly 30 years?
Well, let us know in the comments. What's your ideal time? Comment us on YouTube at MissRollingPod, Twitter at MissRollingPod, Instagram. And whilst you're tweeting us that, give us a follow. Cheers.
Yeah, why not? And so, if you're listening for the first time ever, thank you very much for tuning in. We really appreciated it. And if you've come back again and again and again and again and again, God, we love you. You Reds!